Okay.
Hello and good afternoon. I'm Augustus Muse, and this is Ryan.
Hi, I'm Ryan Purcell.
We're AmeriCorps Civic Action Fellows from Dominican University of California, and we've been spending our year of service learning down at the Ritter Center in San Rafael.
The Ritter Center is a community-based organization that assists Marin County's low-income and homeless population through quite a few different services. Today, Augustus and I have brought over the manager of the Ritter Center, Jorge Garcia, or George Garcia. Today, we're going to be asking him a multitude of different questions that will give each of you guys a better understanding on what exactly goes on and what exactly the purpose is of this program. So I'd like to introduce you. George, who are you and what made you want to do this work?
Hi guys. Hi Ryan. Hi Augustus. Thanks for the introduction. I'm George. I see myself as a normal guy, just trying to get through life as I see it as a journey. Um, what got me into this work, I done a lot of different types of work in the past, and growing up, I grew up here in Maureen, and when I was young, my parents didn't have the best things, so I had one experience that they had to come here for the Ritter Center, and I was able to get a toy, and I was maybe like a couple of years old, and that has always stuck by me. And when I was like in job searches, there was always the Ritter Center on Craigslist, and I gave it a try, looked at what was available, and saw what I could bring to the table to the Ritter Center. It looked like a good match. I've done, and I've been in the receptionist position. I've also been in the pantry just as an associate, but now being as a leadership team member, I get to really do the things that I want to do and kind of mold the pantry in the way that I wanted to. Like before, it would be very strict on what stuff clients could really get. I'm trying to just loosen everything up so clients should just get everything that we have, because everything that we have here is for them. So that's kind of what got me into doing this work. I really like what it gives back to me. I like going home and being able to tell myself that I helped somebody, had the day change because I gave them a sock or a snack or something like that. It's small things in life that make me realize that it's short. So it's what's gotten me to do this work.
That's amazing. So you started off as pretty much a client of the Ritter Center before you started working there.
Basically, yeah. Basically, yeah.
Incredible. So now that you're working there, what is your role within the organizations, like your job title and your day-to-day tasks?
So my job title is the Facilities and Client Services Manager. There within that is a lot that entails from the facilities, meaning anything that needs to be repaired, replaced, upgraded, stations moved, new staff members coming in. We got to make sure there's space for them. And any repairs, if we need to move, I need to be involved in the space that we're going to move into. Also in the client services area, there's all the services that the pantry provides, meaning from just food to toiletries to socks. And we also are the first point of contact. So my role is to make sure that the front desk directs anybody coming to the Ritter Center to the right place. Yeah, and I'm part of the senior management group, which kind of meets every week and makes decisions about where the agency is going, what we're doing, who we're hiring. So I'm involved in a lot of big decision makings.
That's awesome. It sounds like you really have a big plate to handle with all the responsibilities and tasks that are required of you. The second question I'd like to ask is, what is the mission of your organization? What is the purpose? I mean, you've already stated it before, but we can dive deeper into that.
So we as an agency have come up with what that looks like, what our mission is, and what we've come up with is that Ritter Center prevents and resolves homelessness and improves the health and well-being of people in need or living in poverty in Marin by providing culturally sensitive, easily accessible, high-quality care and social services. So that's what, as an agency, we've kind of come up with that. This is what our mission is.
And from my time at the Ritter Center, those values do stand out. I can tell. Community is a big factor of everything, and everyone's working together to make sure everyone else is doing well. And for the next question, what resources stand out in your organization? I made a mistake. Let me go back a little bit. All right. My next question is going to be, what resources does your organization make available to the community?
So the main resources that we have would start with medical. We have the pantry services. We have case management service, which case management is like a whole umbrella of like rent payees, rental assistance, and then we have housing. We have a program called Whole Person Care Team, which they go out to places where we've housed individuals and make sure that they're okay, make sure that they're in the hotel, they're sustainable, they're having food, everything's going well with them, they're going to their appointments. Those are really the big programs that we have and the assets. Yeah. Resources. We
Very
also,
interesting.
yeah, we also help clients that they're homeless and they have no way to get an ID because the DMV makes it difficult for them. We find a way to get them an ID, so they're able to go places to prove that they are who they are.
Kind of touching upon the question he asked, assets and resources, I know they're pretty similar. So there's a second part of this question that you can bridge off of. So what are the assets? You've stated quite a few of them that the community has. How can you build upon them? Like, what is there to improve, whether it's the Ritter Center or it's the community itself?
One big asset that I've noticed is that in Marin, in our community, there is a lot of people that kind of have relatives, kind of know what we do here and want to help and want to encourage that. And throughout last year, we did a fundraiser to let people know we need some support. We want to do this program. We need some support from you. And we raised the amount that we wanted to in a very, very short time, which made us realize that if we extended that, we could probably do a lot more. So there is a lot of asset. The main asset that I want to point out is the giving people that are here in Marin. There are a lot of great people that want to donate, that want to come spend some time, want to give back and help some way or another, so that they can do their part in helping the community. So the community itself is the biggest asset, I would say.
And it sounds like family and personal relationships among the community enhance that as well.
Definitely. As you see, there are some regulars here, and there's some relationships built between clients and volunteers and staff. So there's definitely that union here. Yep.
And for the next question, what do you appreciate most about the community?
Basically, going back to what I mentioned, that they are very giving. A lot of members from the community have really called, came up, showed up, and want to help in one way or another, whether it's delivering some groceries or giving some socks or some clothes. The community is has a lot of kind people in it, and there's very nobody has really realized that as an agency. We touch into like different ways to get partners or people to help out. The community is the one that people are really like maybe looking because of the pandemic and everything that's going on. Maybe people aren't really paying attention what resources are really there or next to you.
Awesome. Okay. So the final question I'd like to ask, sensitive aspects of programs and aids. So I know we have food pantry, medical, case management. Each of those contain different assets and resources. Perhaps you could give us an idea of which ones are the most used, which ones are the most ignored, maybe ones that you thought were going to be used more that aren't. Just your take on that.
So I'd say the clinic has a lot of resources in the amount of people and the amount of care that they can provide. A lot of people think that they come here and they have to qualify for certain things, they have to meet certain guidelines, and that's not always the case. There's always different programs, different grants that we can shift their information to get them the healthcare that they need, or the specialty healthcare that they need. So that's something that isn't utilized. It is a lot of paperwork, and it's a lot of shifting focus. Like if you're in the administrative part of it, there's a lot of paperwork that goes into it, and that's something that as an agency we need to work on, because people are falling through the cracks because we're not doing that paperwork, and that's an issue. So although the clinic has a lot of ways that it can expand its healthcare and the services it provides, there's a lot of help that we could use there as well. But there are a lot of resources that the clinic has to really provide healthcare for our clients. Also for case management, we have a lot of rental assistance that we help. And it's not just about if somebody is in need of rental assistance this month. Is if somebody got kicked out or they've been living in the room and they're ready to get their own place, we can literally get their information, find a grant that will pay for the first month and second month and down payment. So there's a lot of ways that their case management can really help, and it doesn't just only serve like citizens or people that are qualified for certain things. There's always different grants that we can pick and choose from to get the people the care that they need or get them housed where they need. But it's a lot of work to get them to really give us the information that we need so that we can know that they qualify. Because a lot of these grants might have little questions that some clients don't want to answer or don't want to speak to, but those questions might really get them to qualify for like housing or big rental assistance. For the food pantry, we have a lot of partners that really want to donate food. So we always have a lot of food on hand. I have partners that if there's no food in the food pantry this week, I can literally give them a call and they'll show up with food. So there's a lot of resources and a lot of people that are ready to help the Ritter Center in that way. And that's something that I think is not really known, but it's there. For administrative, as an agency, we are growing. Believe it or not, maybe last year we were at maybe 40 staff members. We're estimated by the end of the year to have 70. And we aren't really even growing in space. As you see, we're still in the same place and we're still hiring people. So there's a lot of moves going on up above to get us to move to a great area where we'll be able to even do more services, because there's a lot more services that we're talking about that we're hiring people to do. And there's going to be a lot of expansion in our services. So yeah, there's a lot that we have going on that's going to really help the community. It just takes time. And it also points in the direction that the community needs to help us as well as the county. The county has given us a little bit of a burden sometimes when we are trying to better our services.
It's great to hear that you guys are planning on expanding even further. That's really good because you guys have invaluable assets for the community. You guys help out so much.
Definitely.
And for the final question today, how has COVID impacted your community and life at the Ritter Center in general?
So the community, before COVID, we would be able to let clients come on the campus, be able to really connect with them better than before. And now we can't let clients in the campus because of COVID. So it's really put a burden on how we communicate and how we connect with our clients, because sometimes our clients don't really want to wait in line. So just the overall workflow and how we provide our services are really affected the Ritter Center. As far as life, I guess it's really not being able to talk with everybody. Like our management team doesn't really see our front end staff that much, and that's kind of like led to a disconnect. And that's something that we're working on. But COVID has definitely affected our day-to-day operations and how we serve our clients. And hopefully it's in a better way because we're bettering our services and trying to find the best way to get our services to our clients. So it could be bad, but good in a way as well.
And expanding on that just a little bit, have you had to close down any services that were available before the COVID pandemic?
Yes, before the pandemic, we had showers and laundry. We had that service for over 25 years, where clients would come in, do their laundry and shower. When the pandemic hit, just the area in that day services center, is what we call it, is so close that we can't really have more than 1 or 2 people doing laundry there. And for 1 or 2 people doing laundry, it takes 2 or 3 hours. And to get only 3 people a day and to have it fully staffed, it doesn't really make sense for the organization. So that's kind of one of the reasons why we stopped that. But at the same time, the county was going to roll out their mobile showers, which they haven't been that successful at it. And it's kind of disappointing because it's one of the human needs that I think is very needed. People need to shower, people need to feel good about themselves and really take care of themselves. So that's something that we have stopped, and there's conversations with the board members about bringing showers back, but given our space and the COVID and everything that's going on, I don't think it'd be safe to have clients congregate in such a closed area. But that's two of the services that we stopped, and I think they're very key to serving our population, because showers and laundry, I think, is very critical to their well-being.
Yeah, I agree. Very critical. Hopefully that's something that we can get back open in the future once vaccines are being rolled out better. Ryan, is there anything else that you wanted to ask, or?
I think we're pretty much good. We have a pretty good understanding of what's been going on down there. I think Augustus and I personally wanted to thank you for your time providing these answers and just a general idea and information of what goes on and the true importance of, providing for this community. A lot of people think of helping homeless just by giving food and, just that simple. But today, I think not only have I learned, but I think the class is also going to learn that through many different aspects, such as like laundry and cleaning, hygiene, food, medical, case management, mental health, all that really kind of shapes what a general person needs. So I really appreciate your time, the answers you gave, and just keep doing what you're doing, really helping people out. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, I would like to thank you too, George. It's been an honor having you come speak for us. And we can let you get back to helping more people now, if that's what you're up to.
Thanks, Augustus. Yes, we have our vaccine clinic going on today. So we've already vaccinated about 50 people. So that's great. Yep.
Awesome. All right. Have a nice rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is DeAndre. You guys all know me. This is my supervisor, Shawn. So Shawn, if you just want to introduce yourself real quick, and
Hi.
just a little bit about you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Shawn Cole-Woods. I'm the Senior Education and Programs Director for Next Generation Scholars here in downtown San Rafael. We have partnered with Dominican for, I believe, going on 3 or 4 years now. And at least for me, this is the end of my second year kind of managing this partnership from NGS's end. So yeah, if I don't answer any questions that I could have said right now, I'll say it later.
Got it. Okay, so what made you exactly want to get involved within like this community type work?
Well, never really thought about it until I actually moved here. So I'm a native of Jackson, Mississippi. I went to my undergraduate studies at Tougaloo College. It's a small private historically Black college, and technically it's in Tougaloo, Mississippi, but we say that it's in Jackson because Tougaloo is so small.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, like along the way of me getting my bachelor's, I started my career as a college professor. So started as a tutor, then became a TA, then became an instructor, and then from there kind of carried on until summer 2016. So I moved between different colleges in the South. When I was pursuing my PhD, I literally wanted to get it because in STEM, if you're a college professor, that's really the only way you'll have respect. And so that it was because of that reason. And so when I was coming to the end of my fellowship for my PhD, and my money was running out, I had to be able to pay the bills. So I decided that I wanted to step away from higher ed because it became a bit mentally and emotionally draining, read as boring. Because when you teach students at the college level, they're usually in your class to check a box rather than being first introduced to something, and then they see something that's cool. It's like ooh and all the good stuff. I wasn't getting that.
Yeah.
And so I had experience during the summers. So summers 2009 to 2015, where I was able to then teach within a summer bridge program that I actually did when I was entering Tougaloo. So it was kind of a full circle moment. So in 2007, 2008, I was a tutor. 2009, I came on as a TA again, and then I became the lead teacher for physics until 2015. And so since I had those years working with high school students, I knew that was an itch that I wanted to scratch. And so with me coming, I was essentially at kind of a fork in the road career-wise. So I was like, I'm young enough to make a change if I want. And so I put my name in the hat for an online company called Adams Placement Services. And they essentially vet natural science educators who are wanting to be in K-12 independent schools. And so they allow you to rank where you want to be and all that good stuff. They interview you, take you on as a candidate, and then they send your information into the world.
Yeah.
And so the Bay Area was at the top of my list, and Marin Academy was actually one of the first places that got back to me. So I came out here, interviewed with them, interviewed with the Nueva School down in Hillsboro. I liked MA the most, and then I started my 3-year tenure there. But
Nice.
while I was there, of course, being a Black man from Mississippi, working at a private school in one of the most expensive counties in the country, I got to say that it was a culture shock would be like an extreme understatement.
Yeah.
And so like culturally, from a camping perspective, a hiking perspective, I don't do those things. But more specifically with the wage gaps, also with like the racial and ethnic lack of diversity down there, I didn't see myself in my students nor my colleagues and my peers. And so one day in spring of 2017, so my spring semester, my first year at MA, I got an email from Marcia, who is the former director of family and community engagement for NGS. Now it's titled Director of Social Services.
Mhm.
I got an email from her asking if I would be available for physics tutoring. I forgot that my husband actually interviewed for NGS. So Sally, the co-founder of the program and
Uh-huh.
former director
Yeah.
of college counseling, she actually interviewed my husband, and she remembered that there was a Black man down the street teaching physics.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And so she ended up having Marcia reach out to me because some of the students here needed tutoring. And then I came in, I entered, I walked in, and it's just magic. Like I hate that you and your cohort haven't had an opportunity to see NGS in action, like to see the
Yeah.
individual classes happening, to see us cooking with the kids, to see kids just like getting tutored while playing bananagrams and Uno and all the good stuff. Like it's home.
Mhm.
And ever since then, I haven't wanted to leave. And so from there, I tutored for 2 years, or a year and a half, on to 2 years. And then in summer of 2018, I came on as a lead teacher for Summer Academy, piloted the physics curricula, and then the following year, and then continued tutoring into the fall and into the following spring. And then the next year, I chose to leave MA, and it just so happens that Age, who's the former me, was leaving to start her PhD in sociology at the University of Texas at Austin. And it was like, this opening is here.
Okay.
But I'd never done what I do here formally, which was the kicker. I almost pulled out of the candidacy, out of the application process, because I didn't feel confident in what I was presenting, but turns out it was great. So it was like, so never doubt
Yeah.
yourself. But I'd never done what I do now formally. I'd only done it informally. And they wanted me to create a unit on an ELA topic. So it was focused on the Great Gatsby. I was like, I read Great Gatsby in 9th grade. I'll pull from that. And I did it, and I came into it. And ever since then, it's just, again, I feel like I'm at home. I finally found something from which I want to retire. I feel like the impact that I'm making is like throwing a boulder into a puddle versus a pebble into a puddle. And just being able to support families that, although they might not necessarily speak the same languages as I do, or they do speak the same language, I don't speak the same languages that they do. Flip that. And we come from similar experience, lived experiences, socioeconomically. We just connect. And I know that they want to be here. They know that I care for them, and I want to make sure that they're well. And it's a place that doesn't feel like work. So, yeah, long-winded way of saying I didn't choose this. This chose me.
Nice, nice. So, next question. What is your role within your organization? Like job title, like day-to-day tasks that you'll be doing in your role?
Okay, so my title is formally the Director of Academics and Admissions. It then changed to Senior Education and Programs Director. So that's to say that Jeff, the Executive Director, is here. He manages everything and makes sure that all the things that we need to happen are happening. He manages everything from the money to making sure that we, like the personnel are here, the the community outreach and the cultivation of donors and all of that. Like he manages all of the stuff, like from an external and an internal perspective. I manage everything internally. So I still primarily focus on academics and admissions. So with the academics piece, there's the curricular design. So you know that all of the curricula that we present to our students is all kind of like the foundation of it is social justice, and the applications of it are to race and ethnic studies.
Okay.
With the sole purpose of not necessarily remediation or teaching the students what they would be learning in the schools, but rather we're teaching them how to activate what they're learning in school in a way that's relevant to them to make sure that they have an anchor. And so I work with all of our teachers during the school year. So our core teaching staff, so that's Jessica, Andrew, Nem, and myself, and then Ruby for our transition weeks for the socio-emotional learning and development curricula. But working with all of them to make sure that what we present to the students are properly scoped and sequenced. So this thing feeds into the next, feeds into the next. So basically during the school year, it's the 6th through 12th grade, also during summer, the 6th through 12th grade, and making sure that there's continuity even between the year-round program after school and the year-round aspect of it that's during the summer. So the students who are participating in the after-school portion, they're able to go into the summer with where they left and then continue and then go into the following school year.
Okay.
So that's the in a nutshell or at a glance what I do from an academic perspective. But it's also making sure that we always have a team of tutors who can help support our students who are falling behind a bit in school. It's also about creating educational partnerships out in the community so that those partnerships can bolster what we do academically. So on and so forth.
Yeah.
But for the admissions portion, it's also about going out and partnering with our primary feeder schools, but also expanding into other school districts to make sure that we're diversifying our population, to make sure that we're extending our reach far beyond just what San Rafael has to say, but what's our relationship with Novato schools? What's our relationship down in Mill Valley? What's our relationship as far up as Petaluma, far east as, just the East Bay? But it's about making sure that we're filling our seats.
Nice. And the next question, what is the mission of your guys' organization?
Okay, so our mission statement has actually changed, right?
It's not the same one as on the website anymore?
It's not. So we actually, as of was it like beginning of last month, I believe, or maybe the end of the month before, we actually voted on and adopted a new mission statement.
Okay.
Yeah,
now you can present it to the class.
Yeah. So the new one is, I'm going to read it because I haven't had enough time to memorize it yet. So the new mission statement is through socially conscious leadership development bolstered by individualized academic and social support for them and their families, next generation scholars equips and empowers Bay Area youth to succeed in college and beyond.
Oh, nice. I like that.
So there's this idea that everything that we do is specific to our population. We want to make sure that we're giving them what they need, no more, no less. It's individualized in that it's like for the academic services that we give outside of just the classroom, it's specific to the student, specific to the parents.
Mm-hmm.
Within the classroom spaces, the curricula is applicable to the shared lived experiences of our students. For the social support, it's everything from the legal services to the hot meal program that we have, the food pantry that you help with. It's also mental health support. It's the legal services that go from housing. Like last year with the onset of the pandemic, evictions were very real. And so it was about us making sure that our families were connected to the proper legal support to make sure that they weren't going to get evicted. It was also about last year us raising money to then provide food cards and gas cards to families and things like that. So it's really an all hands on deck. It's like it takes a village type of model. Both arms are wrapped around the families, like all of that. With the sole purpose of eventually, by the time our students leave NGS, not only them, but their families are have a sense of independence. and they feel empowered to tackle life. Our students go into college ideally having a clear understanding of themselves so that they can then choose the major, the career path, the friends, the professors that feed them and that reflect them also, so that they can be supported beyond, because they can then recognize that support in college and in life that they would have gotten from NGS.
Yeah.
Those types of things. So
And then what resources, like what are the main resources that NGS provides to, the students and the families that you guys work with?
so all
You
of them.
can maybe like some like the main programs, like, like the after school, like food
Yeah.
pantry, stuff like that.
So academically, we have the year-round academic program, which is the after-school service. So twice per year. I mean, twice per week, depending on if there's a holiday and all that good stuff. The students will meet with their teacher. So we have the middle school scholars program that's ran by our middle school director, Jessica. So she teaches all the 6th through 8th grade students from an academic perspective. Also within the 8th grade year, we have the independent high school program, or application program, that's facilitated by Andrew, who's our admissions coordinator. And then going into the high school scholars program, we have Andrew also teaching the 9th and the 10th graders, with me co-teaching the 10th grade with him, where we start to incorporate our community uplift projects, which is a 2-year project that the students propose at the end of their sophomore year and self-facilitate through their junior, their senior year. So the food pantry is an example of that. The hot meal program is another example of that. A free clothing store, all the things. So the students basically choose a project that's based on an immediate issue within their own community that they want to tackle. And so then the students transition into working also with me, continue their community uplift project process, but then working with NIM, our college and career counseling director, to then start officially the college access process. So that would be the academic year-round program, but then we have the summer academy program, which is the 5-week interdisciplinary, immersive experience where the students, from a core academic perspective, so your English, your social studies, your science, your math, from those perspectives, also socio-emotional development and learning, have those classes too. But those classes are meant to essentially mirror or preface or preview the courses that the students would actually be going into in the fall. So if a student is taking an Algebra 2 class in the fall, they'll take that course in the summer to get introduced to it, not to come out as a master of anything, but really just to be familiar with it, so there's not such a shock when they get into that class.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, we have the electives that are still based in those core disciplines, but it's meant to, like oftentimes I'll poll the students and be like, hey, what do you want to take as an elective over the summer? And like, they'll tell me pottery, American Sign Language, breakdancing, coding, all the good stuff. And I'll try to find teachers to actually teach those courses so that the students can build their nerdy passions, or to refine, or to bring into focus their nerdy passions, like who they are outside of just the required courses. But also over the summer, we now have the Little Scholars Program, which started last year as our childhood development and education program, which is for ages 7 through 10, so roughly rising 1st grade to rising 5th grade. And they do reading, writing, arithmetic, they do exercise, they do arts and crafts. But really, it's just to make sure that the students have a solid space for them to continue developing those social skills that they might miss out on during the summer. But then we also have our reboot of our Boost Camp program, which is our like specific college application and access workshop program. So that starts so juniors going into their 2nd semester can apply into the program to start then, but then they carry that into the summer and then throughout their following senior year. Monthly workshops during the school year, but tri-weekly, I guess, so 3 times per week, courses during the summer where they focus on essay writing, general application completion, financial aid consultation, all the good things that you might remember doing. So from an academic perspective, that's like the programming, but we have the tutoring, we have we check the grades of the students every week. We call it the C list because literally it's us seeing when the students fall in the C range or at a B minus range, because it's a slippery slope. And then that's what prompts our interventions and things like that. And yeah, and then the partnership. So that's that part. The social services. So that was a lot for the academics. Social services would be everything that's meant to get life out of the way. So we like to think of the social services supporting those socioeconomic indicator buckets that I mentioned to you. So a person's access to food, healthcare, housing, urban and open space, education, employment, all of the things that really can indicate a person or a family's or a group of people's quality of life. That's based on their status in society and also their income.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's really it. So when you put those together, you basically have all the support.
Yeah. Okay, nice. And so for this question, it's kind of like how you view your community type question. It's what are like the assets you see in your community, like resources that are made available, or like actions people take in your community? Like what do you see that's in your community, and like how can you build on them?
So when you say my community, do you mean the
The
family?
community you're working with, yeah.
Okay. There is no shortness, no deficit of families that want to be involved in whatever that way that means. They recognize what we do to support them and they want to give back. So for instance, like with us reopening this week, Ruby reached out to the families and asked if anybody would want to actually volunteer to cook for the kids on the days when we have them, like for the ones of them who are coming into the center.
Yeah.
If they're coming in person. And they're like, the hands just flew up, right? We also have just opportunities for like cross collaboration. So we have like families who have businesses. Like right before this call, I was downstairs with one of the dads who has an electricity company, but he doesn't just do like wiring and things like that. He can also like go into a space and expand your Wi-Fi and all that. It's like a full breadth thing. So we're able to work with our family. It's really symbiotic. And it's all based on appreciation. So like, it's like, we help you, help us, help you, help us. It's not an expectation that they then are going to help us. Like at the end of the day, we're an agency.
Yeah.
It just so happens that the way that we interact with each other is very much so, I'm somebody's little brother. I'm somebody's uncle. I'm somebody's grandpa, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so like from an asset perspective, that's something that's incomparable. Like to be able to work with a community that not only wants your help, but they also want to give back and show appreciation in the ways that make sense for them. And it's just in general familial support.
Yeah. Nice.
Other than that, it's just, if I wanted to reach out to a family and say, hey, is there somebody who could help me work on my conversational Spanish? Because I still speak Spanish like I'm in, my third year in Spanish in college. People are calling me proper. Can you help me? It's always somebody who's willing to do that because they know why I'm doing it. I want to do it for them. And then just in general, like not just our target community, but our donor base, our partnership base, and all of that. It really is about creating multiple avenues for not only our students, but our families to thrive past the students' participation in the program, and, the K-12 aspect of the program, or technically the first 12. And so like working with places that like where students might have supported them during their community uplift project could then turn into a job and a career later. And those community partners oftentimes just offer that, like before we even start those types of conversations. And so it really is like a cradle to life type of approach for our students and our families. Like we want to make sure that after you leave us, you're still going to be healthy. You're still going to be well. You're not going to need us, but you might from time to time want to call and say hi.
Yeah. Well, bouncing off that one, this is a great question to go after. What do you appreciate about, the families that you work with and the students that you work with and the community that you work with?
So as a gay man, More often than not, we're always like the phrase family that you choose comes up. To be in a space where it's like every day is that,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm choosing them choosing me. That is something I never thought I would be able to say about my job. Like working in education, being a native of the South, usually our teaching space, our our place of employment, like we would have to hide who we are.
Mm.
And of course, there might be some evangelical parents out there and families out
Yeah.
there who might have an issue. Like historically, we have had queer faculty and queer staff that the families were like, either they go or I do. I haven't experienced that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really is like a space where the students just want to spend time with us and they know that they can be less than perfect with us. Like it's a part of the whole learning experience. At the end of the day, we can we can give them a grade, we can give them feedback all we want to. But at the end of the day, what they do at NGS, like from an academics perspective, from a grade perspective or a feedback perspective, is not going to be seen by the college in the way that their transcripts from school are going to be seen. So theoretically, they don't have to show up for us and just be like, I need to do the work to get an A to do this. They want to do the work because they're interested in being here, because they want to be here for whatever reason, whether it's they like the curricula or they like the smiling faces that they get. I don't care. They come. So like they're still here. But they're able, like the point is they're able to get what they need by being here. And I'm fed by them being here just because I get to see and interact with them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, so it really is bigger than just us being an academic organization.
That's nice. I like that. And then, so last question we have is, how has COVID affected your community life and work?
Oh,
Yeah, big question.
oh, so in so many ways. In so many ways. I fell in love with NGS because of being in NGS. And for this place to not be filled with, with laughter and with students like screaming yes at the board when they get a problem right during a
Yeah.
tutor session, or for us to not be able to be in the kitchen together bonding in the way that Black and brown people do. um it was hard on everybody. Like the staff has been in the center for a while, ever since, it was released that we could be in space, in closed spaces, 6
Mhm.
apart, like as the CDC was evolving its protocol, or suggested protocol to the world. Um, so we've been here and kind of a lemonade from lemons type of thing. We've been able to take advantage of the space being empty to decorate. You've been in my office. You know that things are shifting in here. This
Mhm.
office actually used to be shared by me and the social services person. So whether that was Ruby or Carla or Giovanni before her, um, now Ruby is downstairs and she has her own space for the therapeutic sessions, the counseling sessions, and all of that. And so this space is being turned into kind of a learning center within the learning space. So it's like the majority of the tutoring sessions are going to happen in here.
Yeah.
We've been able to like build programming because we have time to put the mental space to it. So that's kind of like the silver lining portion of it. But as far as like the deeper impact, it has been us not being able to be there for our kids in the way that at our core we need to be there for our kids. Like
Mhm.
not seeing each other means that we have to interact through a screen, and nobody's liked doing that. It was fine. It was fun in the beginning. It was fun in the beginning. We don't
Yeah,
have to go,
everybody's like, yay, break,
hey,
fun.
but
But
they were
now it's
like,
like, I'm done.
right, I don't want this anymore.
Yeah.
I want to hug somebody. Like that, and that's like we felt that in waves and ripples and just bulldozers to what we initially thought, life at NGS, like it, for anybody who's entering the space, you when you think NGS, you think big family, you think a group of nerds, you think unicorn stable. But at the end of the day, everybody is together, and we have not been able to do that.
Yeah.
And so that's from the in-house thing. But of course, our target populations are youth and families from low-income communities and experiences. Those were the people hit hardest by the pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were the people who, like for some of the parents who might clean houses, they couldn't go into the spaces that were paying them to clean because they, at the beginning there was like some months where nobody needed to be around anybody who wasn't a part of their immediate circle. You had spaces, you had families who were working for restaurants that went under. You had like that's from an employment standpoint. But even thinking about families in the canal that are, 6 to 8 people deep, living in 500 square feet,
Hmm.
and like the parents still going out and working undercover, of course, but they needed to do what they needed to do to pay the bills because the landlords were still not being fun people and threatening eviction. And so then going out and coming back into a space and risking, like if they were bringing something home, they were risking infecting everybody because the canal is so densely populated.
Yeah.
Um, but it was really about making sure that our families had a roof over their heads and foods in their bellies. And then then eventually came the seasonal depression because we had to go into the fall and into the winter, and we couldn't go outside. We didn't have sunlight. We didn't have like all the things that make us well, that are coming from nature. And then even now, like transitioning back into in-person instruction is a whole other beast that a lot of our students and our families are just either uncomfortable with, or like with our families having, our families being big, but having younger siblings of older siblings, and they've grown accustomed to the older siblings taking care of the younger siblings during the day while they go to work to pay bills and all of that. It's another adjustment that we have to make.
Yeah.
And so it just seems like every time we turn around, something else is happening. But I guess the positive thing in that is something else is happening. And so we're at least having that bit of excitement. But there have been effects from every different direction.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for taking your time to do this interview and talk to the class, even though the class isn't really here.
I know that we've connected a bunch over this past, so when the opportunity came up to record someone, you were the first that came to mind. So to start off, just basic stuff. Who are you? What made you go into this work? And kind of your background, how you got to where you are.
Awesome. My name is Maureen Denieva Marsh. I also go by the nickname Mo. I am a strategic projects manager for the county administrator's office, and I apologize in advance for my dog and my cat interrupting our interview today.
No worries.
But that's technology. I have been with the County of Marin for almost 8 years this July. Previously, I served with Health and Human Services, our public health department, for 7 years in the areas of substance use prevention, policy work, community organizing, and supporting community coalitions. What that really means is how do we connect our residents, our staff, our people to the resources and information they need to live happier and healthier lives. And I think that that's the real theme of my career at the County of Marin, and previous to that in about a decade's worth of work in nonprofits. And so, yeah, I'm really excited to be able to connect with you today. And I'm ready for your questions. I don't know if that answered your first question.
It did. Yeah, thank you very much. You kind of answered a couple of my questions already, but that's all right. So you already told us what your job title is. I want to ask you, what is some constants of your day, like your day-to-day tasks, typical meetings, and just such like that.
I know it's a wild world. Before COVID, right? I would be meeting people in person, especially with community members or other community-based organizations. I loved meeting where their headquarters were. So if it meant their offices or local coffee shops to support local businesses, I really wanted to remove the barrier of, yeah, let's just meet at the Civic Center, or yeah, let's just meet at, my conference space. Now, if it was conducive for the type of meeting we were having, absolutely, business is business. But if there was an opportunity to really see the heartbeat of an organization and the work they're doing, I would rather go into the community. Now that I mention that, because that's what I would usually do pre-COVID. Currently, because of COVID in the last year, we had to move on to either a digital format like Zoom or Microsoft Teams or other ways to meet virtually, picking up the phone, sending an email. But how else can we touch point, as things are opening up, since we are now currently in orange tier, even as we progress to the next yellow tier, or as we fully open up, according to Governor Gavin Newsom in June, I have been meeting with people and organizations in COVID safe space environments. So, for example, rooms with a lot of open air and groups that are less than 6 people. Each group has their COVID safe, and I really apologize about my cat.
No
Arthur.
worries.
Um,
No worries.
their COVID safe practices, because it's all about comfortability. Just because you're vaccinated doesn't necessarily mean that we should be gathering per se, right? And so all this to say is we are learning that there are different ways to engage in meeting. And I think that even after we get over this COVID curve, the way we do business and the way we connect with our residents and the folks that we need to will be in a hybrid format. I really truly believe that that will be the case. Currently, I'm in a hybrid format. I work from home a couple of days a week, and I also come into the office a couple of days a week. And I should have framed it earlier. As county employees, we also serve as disaster service workers. So there was a time for many months in the beginning when I was working in public health that my regular job stopped, and I've served as a full-fledged disaster service worker responding to COVID. Duties as assigned, right?
Definitely,
And in my new role in the county administrator's office, supporting the Marin County Office of Equity, as well as other strategic projects that support community engagement, employee retention, and other topics that reinforce our workforce, I have been asked to go back to the Emergency Operations Center to support their work. So I would say a typical day in public service, pre-COVID or even post-COVID, current COVID, all this is to say flexible. You need to be flexible. You need to be adaptable. Also,
Definitely.
as a public servant, regardless of where you sit in the so-called hierarchy or tiers titles aside, our first and foremost important focus is our residents, our residents. So, I think COVID has taught us a lot that we can adapt quickly. We can really, utilize technology, but it also highlighted a lot of gaps in equity of technology. We might have gotten a lot of folks up and running, but did we have strong enough Wi-Fi? Did our residents or the people that are serving us in this disaster service work, were they equipped with the tools or the skills? And then how do you onboard them? How did we onboard you?
Yeah.
We've only met in person once. So all of this, I'm rambling on and on because I'm very passionate about this, but there's a phrase, building the plane as we're flying it. And I feel that government and the way we're responding to these so-called disasters, we can take a page from these lessons and ask ourselves, these things that we're learning, how we can upstart quickly due to a disaster, how can we keep up this evolution of technology and this evolution of connecting with residents in a different way, right? Meet them where they are, right? Meet them in spaces that are conducive to their workflow. Like, should we be meeting at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday? would that really get us enough, community residents in that space? Or should we be meeting at 7 p.m. after the end of the workday? And if we
Definitely, yeah.
do, yes, and if we do end up meeting in person, maybe we should provide childcare and translations and, all of these other pieces. But anyways, I'll stop here because I'm pretty sure you have other questions. But
No worries.
the short answer is that a typical work day is there is no typical work day. And that's what's exciting about public service, for me at least, is that we work to help overcome problems. And what's beautiful, especially if you, the public servant, are also living in the community, the work that you're touching affects your friends and your neighbors and the world that you're living in. It's so cool. But then again, we also know that it amplifies a lot of I don't want to say failures. That's how I'm going. It highlights a lot of opportunities, right? Because I would rather workshop these opportunities while we're learning, right? Than when we have to experience the next global pandemic, or we're experiencing fire season this coming fall, this coming summer. We learned a lot, when we had to create our own evacuation center for our fire refugees in 2017 due to the North Bay fires. And a lot of the learning lessons that we had from that time about making sure we had translation, community service workers, making sure that our disaster service workers were trained up, et cetera. We applied those to COVID, but this, disaster service response is so different because it's with a public health focused. So there's a lot of what is that word? There's a lot of when you're doing a learning cycle, there's a larger learning curve because we have to use the same vocabulary and language and data, and it's hard to dissect that and bring it down
Definitely.
to something that is translatable in community language.
I think a good portion of it is the logistics. And like you were saying, the main mission of your role in equity is just making sure that all the resources provided are available to all and are in the best time frame and the best languages, and ensuring that those resources are there. So mentioning that, what resources does the Office of Equity make available to the community, and how would you apply your personal mission to those resources?
Well, I will say with the Maureen County Office of Equity, we're in a space of transition. I joined on to our team, and we have an equity analyst. My colleague Sophie Martinez joined the team, supported by our assistant county administrator Angela Nicholson, and our first equity director Anyanaya Muse. And I say we're in a place of transition because she has transitioned out of our organization after 2 years in this space, and for another amazing opportunity in Oregon, and we support her with that. So we're in a space of, we had just gathered our team. I was one of those people to join the team, and now we're in a space of, now we're in recruitment mode to find our next leader in this equity space. I would say that the big focus in terms of resources right now is that because we currently don't have an equity director, I'm not a diversity, equity, inclusion, expert by any means. But what I am in my role for the equity office is to connect residents or those who are seeking resources to the proper subject matter experts as we are trying to find our new equity director. So we are building out a new website that is accessible for our community residents and our community partners. That hasn't gone live yet, but we will be live by June. Another great resource that we are offering is that we really want to support our employees at the County of Marin with different trainings and professional development in regards to race, equity, bias, there's a lot of pain, hurt, trauma that has occurred in the last year, whether it be with our African American community or other communities of color. And then you're expected to show up to work the next day, right? I'll give a personal example. When all of those shootings were happening and beatings were happening in our Asian American Pacific Islander community, even though not many of them were happening here in Marin, they were happening in New York, they were happening in Atlanta, they were happening in my hometown of San Jose. That doesn't mean that it doesn't affect me as a person. So what was wonderful is that, our not only our equity office, but our county administrator's office and connected us as employees to resources for us as employees to be able to unpack some of that stuff. And if we need to talk to someone, who can we connect with, whether it be anonymously or through our own health network? Because that's tough, right?
Definitely.
And then you're supposed to show up on Monday and then do your work or do your disaster service work. That's a lot of a heavy load to put on any employee.
Definitely.
Right?
That can be traumatic in and of itself. Yeah.
So I'm not saying things are perfect. I will never say that things are perfect, right? We are all learning about this and navigating this hybrid world, this virtual world, this, how to still stay connected even though we're in this virtual space, how to have hard conversations about race, about inequality, about violence, and then even how to support each other in this employee space, right? Can I show up to work as my whole and authentic self? Is there psychological safety here at the county when I am trying to share my ideas in a team meeting? What are the human resources laws that are in place to protect me while I'm sharing? And I think that's what's really important of connecting all those pieces. And so what's great is that our learning and organizational development division in human resources, we have a new principal. Her name is Dominique Burton. She's fantastic. She started in the summer. And, she, before Anya and I transitioned out, we were really building and streamlining how equity doesn't just live in the Marin County Office of Equity, and equity isn't extra work. It's the work, right?
Definitely.
And I didn't coin that. That is something that we all believe in. So then how can we really streamline that culture change into each department, in each division? And where can we find workforce equity champions? And that's what Dominique, through Human Resources, has created in the last couple of months. She helped to identify, about 30 workforce equity champions across all of our 22 departments in different sectors. And when I mean sectors of leadership, I mean, it's not just boots on the ground folks. It's not just mid-level managers. It's not just department heads. It's, folks that just really care about connecting employees and community members to the resources through the lens of equity. And so those are just some of those pieces. So I know that this is more of like a wraparound answer that I gave to you about how the Marin County Office of Equity is connecting resources. I never want to misrepresent the Office of Equity. Unfortunately, we are in just a space of transition. What I can say is that we have a commitment to make sure that every community partner, community resident, community employee, every county employee who would like to connect to such resources, we are happy to be that connector. And our hope is that when our new equity director gets installed, that person will also continue that passion and commitment of connecting and strengthening the equity work.
And definitely in a time of transition, it's one of the best times for big growth and big changes. So I definitely think it's really inspirational that you've been assisting in all of these programs and resources. Well, first I want to thank you once again for your time today. And you've been very good at answering the questions. Just to kind of wrap it up, you did mention that you do visit your office at the Civic Center a few days a week. So you are in Marin. What do you appreciate about the community?
I think what I appreciate about this community is I never grew up in Marin. I'm originally from Hawaii, grew up in San Jose. But I always tell folks that I did my growing up as a young professional, as an adult. You know, shout out to Dominican. I went there, you know, for my undergrad and for grad school, right? But I think that that's just the outside that faces the world. I think what I appreciate about the community is that the reason why I'm so passionate about public service, nonprofit, government work, safety net resources, as so they say in government jargon, government speak, is that at one point or several points in my time, even with a college degree, I needed to be a recipient of said resources. And I think, you know, with my role as a communicator for the Emergency Operations Center, a role as a communicator for the Marin County Office of Equity, and previously as a communicator for Health and Human Services, why I was passionate to make sure that these resources are in the hands of the people who need them the most is because I remember what it was like to be on the phone for 30, 45, an hour trying to be recipient of services. I remember was standing in line to receive services, you know, and I use those personal experiences, even though that was not very long ago, it was like a decade ago. I use that to drive how we communicate when we're doing faith-based outreach. I'm a parishioner here locally at a local parish. How can I use that personal connection? And not just the personal connection, but like through the lens of my experiences. And I get a little bit of emotional about it, right? Not in a bad sense, just more of like, how can I do more? Right? How can I work faster? But I also realize in this space is that I'm not alone.
Definitely.
And so I think that we all want to see what's best, to do what's best for the community. I think that I personally put too much of a personal pressure on myself. This is one of the most expensive communities in the country to live in. We have had racial equity issues splashed on national headline news. But I choose to stay here because I really believe that there are good, intentional people who care about the community and really uniting us together, you know? And I'm learning every day. I'm learning, for example, that we have a very large Guatemalan indigenous, you know, immigrant community here, and that our resources need to be translated in indigenous languages like Mom, like Quiche, like Mayan Yucatec, right? What can I do then to help streamline that process? I'm learning also that it needs to be more digital or video because it's more of an oral based language, because not the literacy rate in those three indigenous languages is very low for the older community, but the literacy rate is higher for folks in the younger community. So how do we have a balance for that? Right? That's a project that I'm working on right now. But even though that's a very COVID specific communications project, that's something that we can use to inform, okay, then how are we doing communications in general? Is it just Spanish? Is it just Vietnamese? Or is it Hmong and Farsi and Tagalog? So, yeah, I think that for me, why I love what I'm doing or why I stay here in Marin is because I know there's a lot of work to be done. My hope, honestly, personally, is that I can still afford to stay here, but that's another story for another day.
Yeah.
But I hope that answers your question. I think being able to ask these types of questions is really important too. So I think that's the other thing I'll leave this interview with is don't be afraid to ask the hard questions, even if you're the only voice in the room that brings it up. Because sometimes that type of courageousness from you needs to happen in order for other voices in the room to be able to speak up. Unfortunately, though, more often than not, it's a lot. So just keep asking questions and know that asking questions is still an act of being courageous.
So thank you very much, Maureen. And definitely with workers like you in the county, the future in Marin is looking healthy and bright.